On the menu, highlights from the Highveld 400 at Carnival City on the East Rand.
After a year out of the Loop East Rand Entertainment Centre, Carnival City Casino was back in the ABSA Off-Road Championship limelight as the venue for the Highveld 400. The replacement race for the Limpopo 400, the Highveld event was round 6 of the National Championship. Previous events based at Carnival City earned the reputation as rainmakers, but this year competitors were greeted by a bitterly cold and foggy morning as they went through the pre-race documentation rituals.
The downloading of GPS coordinates is an essential safety feature in off-road racing, with the process overseen at all races by Eric Sommer. With nearly 100 competitors to process, the documentation area was a hive of activity and also served as a meeting place for competitors to renew acquaintances. In the build-up to the race, stories are swapped as everyone gears up for a busy weekend.
With 4 wins in 5 races, Donaldson Nissan Navara crew Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford had a comfortable championship lead.
You know, the goal's always the same, to go out and try and win races. We've got a healthy lead, which makes it, we've got a bit of a comfort zone there, but you know, it's always important to try and win the race, and that's exactly what we'll try and do.
Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford took to the Highveld 400 a 60-point production vehicle lead over the Donaldson Nissan teammates of Ivar Tollefsen and Quinn Evans, and had an opportunity of wrapping up the championship.
Without a win since the Eastern Cape 400 last year, pressure was mounting on the Castrol Toyota Hilux teams. Driver Anthony Taylor was in a wait-and-see mood.
I know some of the other teams have also been testing, so I'm expecting the pressure to be a little bit higher than what it was at Sun City. But yeah, look, it's a new game for all of us here at Carnival, because apparently they've changed the route quite significantly. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens after the prologue.
A maiden podium finish on the Sun City 400 for the new diesel Ford Ranger TDCi did much to ease the pressure that had been building up for the former South African champions Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholtheimer.
My dad always used to say to me, you don't drive a car with your hands, you drive it in the seat of your pants. And it's the first time I'd actually felt that with the car. We've made some good steps forward, I think, and we had a good result at Sun City, which lifted the morale of all of us, because we've had a difficult season with a new car, you know, with new developments and things like that. So we're really looking forward to it. Carnival City's always been a good event for us, so we're really excited about it. The car feels good. Let's hope.
There is always a festive air when the top-seeded drivers in the production vehicle category draw for start positions prior to the prologue that determines grid positions for the race proper. With clerk of the Course Rex Forum overseeing proceedings, Castrol Toyota's Anthony Taylor drew the number 1 slot, with 2nd and 3rd going to Donaldson Nissan teammates Duncan Foss and Hannes Grobler.
At just under 100 kilometers, the Highveld 400 prologue was a little longer than its norm. Being first on the road has advantages and disadvantages, with the big plus factor that of not having to contend with a dust problem. The Castrol Toyota factory pair of Anthony Taylor and multiple SA champion Robin Houghton had first on the road in the race at the top of their agenda and were pushing as hard as they could.
Behind Taylor and Houghton, a little slice of prologue drama was brewing when Hannes Grobler and Johan Moore closed in on Donaldson Nissan Navara teammates Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford. There are no team orders in the Nissan squad, and Grobler and Moore, who is the reigning South African co-drivers champ, were desperate for a good start position from which they could launch their bid for a second win this season.
Championship leaders Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford have had to fight back after poor prologues on a couple of occasions this season. One of their strengths has been the ability to turn disappointing Friday performances into winning performances on Saturdays. A more conservative approach at a small river crossing cost Grobler and Moore a couple of seconds, but the pair had made up ground on the teammates ahead of them.
And then came the drama. Foss and Pitchford had managed to beach their Nissan Navara on a steep hump and were stranded. Without a second thought, Grobler and Moore administered a few shoves where they were needed most and freed Foss and Pitchford from their predicament. Now that's called teamwork.
Mission accomplished. and Grobler and Moore were again on their way, but now ahead of Voss and Pitchford.
Despite the delay in helping out their teammates, Grobler and Moore posted the fastest time of the day and were 63 seconds ahead of Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton. It was a blistering performance from the pair, and after more than 3 decades of piloting off-road rally and race cars, the ebullient Grobler is as enthusiastic and as competitive as ever.
Back in action and with a little help from their friends, Voss and Pitchford were still able to post the 4th fastest time of the day and were 2 minutes and 17 seconds behind Grobler and Moore. In a combined field of production vehicle and special vehicle entries, it meant Voss and Pitchford would start 12th on the road. It is indicative of the man and the camaraderie that exists in off-road racing that Voss was afterwards hugely apologetic for costing Grobler and Moore time that could influence their race result on the following day.
The Castrol Toyota Hilux crew of Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton was still pushing hard. Taylor is equally at home on the race circuit or off the beaten track, but when the prologue results were issued, the Toyota team had to settle for 2nd place, 63 seconds behind Hannes Grobler and Johan Moore.
After making a name for himself as a hard charger in the special vehicle category, Gary Berthold this season switched to production vehicles. After a cautious start, Berthold had come into his own in the Atlas Copco Toyota Hilux, and with top rally navigator Andre Vermeulen sitting alongside him, posted the 4th fastest time. Berthold and Vermeulen were 38 seconds ahead of Hein Lateghan and Chris Birkin in the second of the Castrol Toyota's Hilux factory entries.
Lateghan is another driver with extensive race and rally experience. He was a late replacement at the start of the season for Marc Ronier, who decided to take a sabbatical from off-road racing to concentrate on rally and business commitments. Lateghan has quickly settled down, but the 2 Toyota factory crews have not had much luck this season.
Behind the Toyota, young Louis Highveld, in only his 2nd outing as a driver, upstaged former South African champions Neil Woolridge and Kenny Shorthammer. Highveld and Maret Besadenhout, out in the N1 4x4 Ford Ranger, were 6th fastest on the prologue and 9 seconds clear of Woolridge and Shorthammer.
Ford is the first South African manufacturer to go the diesel route in the ABSA Off-Road Championship, and earlier in the season ran into a string of teething problems. A solid 3rd place on the Sun City 400 was a huge morale booster for the team, with the pair looking to emulate their 2007 showing when they won what was then the Carnival City 400.
Also in their first season in the Premier SP class are young Pretoria crew Christian de Plooy and Henk Janssen van Vieren. They also started off cautiously, but a podium finish on the Toyota 1000 Desert Race and a solid Sun City 400 saw them go into the Highveld 400 high on confidence. Hoping to regain confidence after a disappointing run of results were Thomas Rundle and Stavros Giannakis in the 2nd of the factory diesel Ford Rangers. A solid, if unspectacular prologue saw them come home 9th overall and provided hope for a similar performance during the race.
The Regent Racing pair of Terence Marsh and Peter Groenewald are another crew in their first season in the SP class. Marsh and Groenewald moved across from the special vehicle category, where Marsh is a former South African champion.
Out in the ex-Duncan Fossness Navara, now running in Regent Racing livery, Marsh and Groenewald have shown steady progress in the SP class, and another solid drive saw them complete the top 10 on the prologue. Switching from the special vehicle category to an SP class vehicle has been a steep learning curve for Marsh, who's had to adapt new driving techniques. SP class vehicles are a completely different kettle of fish to the rear-wheel drive Class A running in the special vehicle category, and making the adjustment is not an overnight process.
A couple of local inhabitants weren't all that interested in Marsh and Groenewald, who weren't taking any chances when it came to negotiating a tricky little mud hole.
Not happy with their prologue performance were Kobus van Tonder and Rian Gwilpa in the Unifreight Ford Ranger. Van Tonder was competing under a cloud of a recent family tragedy and admitted afterwards his mind was elsewhere. Running a minute or so behind Fantonda and Guelpo were Class D winners Cliff Highveld and Johan Smallberger in the N1 4x4 Toyota Hilux D4D. Smallberger stepped into the breach when Highveld's son Louis took the plunge and switched to a driver role in the X-Ford Ranger running in the SP class.
Second in Class D and just over a minute behind Highveld and Smallberger were Heini Strumpfer and Henry Hichu in the Micron XL Toyota Hilux. Hot on their heels were Potchefstroom crew Dewald van Breda and Johan de Tooy in the Northam Toyota Hilux D4D, who were only 21 seconds behind the Micron entry. Van Breda and de Tooy were the 2008 Rookies of the Year and moved into Class D from the Class E ranks.
There was a good tussle going on in Class E, where winners Louw de Bruin and Rian Greylen in the Ruacon Ford Ranger were being chased by early championship leaders Dion Venter and Ian Palmer in the 4x4 Megaworld Toyota Hilux. Also in the mix were reigning champions Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux, with the pair eventually taking the RFS Toyota Hilux into second place ahead of Venter and Palmer.
Working their way through the field were Hichu and Jaap de Bruin with the Micron XL Toyota Hilux crew having to contend with a 15-minute penalty for missing their start time. Repairs to a faulty power steering unit on their way to the start of the prologue set the father and son team back on their heels. There were also problems for Leroy Poulter and Rob Howie, who were Class E winners at Sun City. They were stranded in the Ferodo Nissan hardbody when they fell foul of a muddy trench alongside the route.
Back at Carnival City, it was time for service crews to swing into action and make sure their chargers were restored to full health and ready for battle the next day.
Back in action on the Highveld 400 was off-road legend Alfie Cox, who with German co-driver Jürgen Schroeder was shaking down a new Nissan Navara in preparation for next year's Dakar Rally.
Well, the car was rolled out of the Nissan workshop last week, and you know we need to do a shakedown. Glenn, obviously we're going to go with the team, the South African team, and Jürgen has flown out to come and do one of our South African races, obviously the Highveld 400 here at Carnival City, and it'll be good to do 2 shakedowns before we go to the Dakar to make sure that the car is 100%.
The top 10 after the prologue, with Hannes Krobler and Jean Moore in pole position ahead of the Toyotas of Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton and Gary Bertholdt and Andre Vermeulen.